So, Lone Rider here. And maybe you've heard the trope about there being no bikes in the apocalypse. It's kind of a universal feature of Hollywood whenever you have a movie that takes place during some kind of disaster and there's people fleeing the city and they're all stuck in traffic and they're going to die. Um, you never see what you would normally see in a real life situation like that, which is all the people on bicycles riding past them as they're stuck in traffic in their cars and actually getting out of there and surviving before the people who's trapped in their cars are then killed by the big alien blaster letting loose, or Godzilla, or the zombie horde, or whatever. And I did think this is interesting. There seems to be a tendency for there to be like, it's almost like there's no bicycles in the film world, right? Unless you have a movie about bicycles. And we've had a few over the years. I've got three of them here. Most recent one, Premium Rush, Quicksilver, and then American Flyers. And then, of course, Breaking Away, which some people will argue isn't a bike movie. It's just a story about these kids growing up in Indiana. Of course, cycling plays a huge role in it, and there's a big bike race in it. So, I mean, I would argue it's a cycling movie. It's also a coming-of-age story, whatever. But those are the four mainstream Hollywood bike movies. And we've only had four in the last 40-odd years. And I'm holding three of them in my hand. And that kind of sums up all you need to know about the neglect of cyclists in popular media. And by the way, when they are presented, a lot of times what you end up with, like in Premium Rush, is they're presented as these crazy-ass daredevils doing all sorts of wicked stunts and stuff. And yeah, that's cool to watch, and I got to give mad props to the people who did the stunts in the movie. I mean, actor Joseph Gordon-Levitt actually was injured crashing into a taxi cab or something, trying to do his own stunts. He did actually learn how to ride a bike and, people taught him how to do it. And not in terms of just riding a bike without falling over. Most of us learned that when we were 5. He learned how to ride in traffic like a hardcore, urban cyclist, which I thought was, you have to give him credit for. But the point is, it is interesting that when they focus on cyclists in the media, it's usually, oh, you're a bunch of crazy daredevils. That's not how most of us ride. Honestly, watching a movie about how most of us ride would probably be boring, right? Unless you're focused on some of the maybe the sketchy downhills, or the cars that run red lights, or the pedestrians that jaywalk out in front of you while talking on their iPhone app. Because the truth is that most of us don't ride like daredevils or speed demons or whatever. And yeah, I commuted on a fixed gear for years, and I still ride a fixed gear. I have 2 of them out in the garage. You know what, though? My fixed gears have a front handbrake. Yeah, there's a reason for that. And I don't want to get into that can of worms, brake versus no brake on a fixed gear. Is the rear wheel and drivetrain a brake? Is it not, etc.? Let's just say that I'm a safe rider within the limits of my abilities, and I know what those are. And I'm not Superman, and I'm not Kevin Bacon, and I'm not Joseph Gordon-Levitt. So I'm not going to try and ride like that. And the fact is, most of us don't, I guess is what I wanted to say. So, it would be nice if there were more portrayals of cyclists in movies, but it would also be nice if there were more positive portrayals that didn't make us out to be arseholes. Now, to be fair, I like the idea of there being an action movie where the cyclist is the hero. This movie is basically one big, ginormous car chase, or car bike chase. And it's neat to have an action movie where the bicyclist is the hero. I like that as a cyclist. Just like as an archer, I was psyched when I heard they had a new Robin Hood movie coming out, until I saw the trailer and realized how lame it was. That's a separate issue. I don't want to get into that. But it would be nice if they had more bike movies where there were, or movies where bicyclists made an appearance at all. Like Hollywood was culturally aware we exist. But it would also be nice when they do present us, if we weren't always presented as daredevils or jerks or whatever. That said, yeah, an action movie with a cyclist, I can dig that. I'm not saying it was a great movie, but just as a cyclist, it's nice to see a movie where we're the action heroes. That's great. However, I really think you should also have presentations of cyclists in film where we're just regular people, because that's what most of us are. And, I understand entertainment is, you have a stylized view of the world. You're trying to tell a story. You're trying to entertain, obviously. But it would be nice if you have, maybe a realistic portrayal of cyclists somewhere, so that those people who aren't cyclists themselves, or who, don't necessarily know any or hang out at bike shops or whatever, or at least going to get some idea of what we're like. Because a lot of times what happens is when you have any issue where cyclists are involved, people jump immediately to the most negative and asinine stereotype of what we're about and what we're like and how we act. And you could say some of that could be their misunderstanding. They don't understand cyclists, so they had a run-in with a cyclist who wasn't doing anything wrong and they misconstrued what he was doing. Or maybe they actually did run into an actually rude cyclist. They are out there. There are cyclists who are jerks. Just like there are other people who are jerks. But the difference is when you have, one person in a Volkswagen who's a jerk, it doesn't lead to an across-the-board denunciation of Volkswagens, right? Of Volkswagen drivers. With cyclists, yeah, it does. So it would be nice if we had some of a pop culture presence beyond, 4 movies. And when we do appear in movies, it would be nice if it wasn't always as the daredevil or the Hellraiser or the person that's doing 360s over somebody's heads. Yeah, that makes for an awesome stunt in an action movie. But if people walk away thinking that's what we're like in real life, it's not going to help cycling to find wider appeal. Lone Rider out.